So this kind of brings us maybe into kind of adding all these amazing modalities that we have been exploring with you, from crystals to dreams and ritual and ancestors, that you have kind of distilled through your own experience as a healer, and you've created this modality. So maybe you can share about how you've brought them together.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a little story on why this was even why this became a thing for me. Because I had, like I said, I work a lot with the elderly, terminally ill patients, lots of cancer patients. And the one patient I had mentioned before that was dealing with, that was young, and her father was an anesthesiologist. This was the same patient. But the cancer that she had, she was only 33 when she was diagnosed with stage 3, stage 4 uterine or ovarian cancer. Ovarian cancer is very, 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 it's like one of the most deadly cancers, because by the time you realize that you have ovarian cancer, it's usually already spread to multiple organs. And the rate that you would be able to catch it before it spread even further is very small, even with tons of chemo. So the death rate is very high for ovarian cancer. And she was 33 when she was diagnosed. And I remember one time when I was working with her, this was before, I was still using crystals and stuff in her treatment, but like I said, I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. But I remember I said to her one day, one of our sessions, like, her and I had very kindred souls. And I just opened up to her and it was like, I really feel like your cancer is a spiritual cancer. And I didn't even know what the heck I was saying. I was just like, I felt strongly that if she healed her soul and spirit, that this cancer would go away. And at the time, I didn't have all of the tools to help her, but it planted this seed in me that I really wanted to heal on this deeper level, deeper than on the level than just my acupuncture needles and my herbs can heal. Because what I'm learning now is that, there's different levels of our healing. And the top level of our healing is dealing with the physical. So dealing with the body through, surgeries, medications, herbs, acupuncture, massage, all those things heal like the physical. And then when you want to heal like the deeper parts of what's going on with the person, you have to go to deeper modalities. And then I was left to find this modality of healing with crystals and gemstones. And so recently now, it's like she planted that seed that I wanted to understand how to heal on a deeper level. Then that was about like 3 years ago. And so that fast forward to more recently, and I brought it all together in a way that really does address these issues when I'm treating someone and I'm like, yeah, I know that you have this problem, but the real reason is way deeper than you are even physically aware of how deep that it goes. Because, you start to pick up on these things as a wild being practitioner. So basically what I developed from these like getting in touch with healing with crystals in this way is that, well, there's a way that you can, as an acupuncturist, there's like a set of acupuncture meridians that are called the 8 extraordinaries, which I mentioned the other time, I think. And so the 8 extraordinary, they heal on a very deep level. There's 12 primary channels, right? And then there's all these other categories of channels that we use to heal the physical body with. And then the 8 extraordinary are like, they go to the absolute deepest level of the physical body. So they go to the level of what's called the Jing, which is what we call the essence. So it's like when we're created, when we are conceived in utero, we are conceived with the essence from the mother and the essence from our fathers, and they join together, and that's how we are created. Within that essence comes all of our parents' beautiful DNA that created us into these beautiful, amazing humans. But also in that comes a lot of what we were talking about, the ancestral lineage, like the unresolved traumas that our parents have inherited from their parents and their parents' parents. All of that gets passed down into the child, right? So we come into this world with some stuff that is like not necessarily ours, and we do our best with this stuff, right? And for some people, this stuff starts to really affect how they operate in the world, and it affects how they relate in the world and the stories that they tell themselves in order to relate into the world, which leads to these programs of belief patterns that they subscribe to in order to be in this world, right? So it's this whole snowball package. And so when you heal with crystals, because they come from the earth, like they're made from materials of the earth, and they're made up of all of like the different periodic elements from the periodic table. They contain all of that. It's like the fundamental building blocks of life is within the crystals. So when you learn how to apply them to these specific channels, you're able to tap into the essence of the person. You're able to tap into the stories, the programming. You're able to tap into the deep ancestral traumas, the deep traumas that a person's experienced, PTSD, all of these things that, you know, we're learning to fix with Western medicine, but we're like barely touching the surface. The stones address it from like a very deep level. So once I understood this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this was a missing piece for me, because in acupuncture school, we didn't learn anything about crystal and stone medicine, and we barely learned anything about the 8 extraordinary. So my teacher has brought them together in this beautiful package. And it's like, as soon as I went to that class, it was like, boom, like the lights went off, right? So then I'm like, okay, I can heal my patients physically. Like I'm like, oh, good. I can start placing stones on certain channels and opening up things, you know, immediately, because I'm an acupuncturist. I was able to do that. But then I'm thinking about like how I really want to help people from a distance. And I know that the crystals have such a powerful vibration in them that they can work in healing from a distance. And so how can I do this? And so we had a series of like group talks where everyone shared their different modalities on how they do distance work. And so based off of what, you know, it's kind of just pulling in like what was really resonating with me and like what I could really pull into my practice. And I developed my own way of treating, which is very, very unique. And it's pretty much using a hologram of a person on a specific special paper that has these sets of lines in the corner, in the 4 corners of the paper, that acts like an amplifier. So it's almost like a magnifying piece of paper. So it's whatever you put in the center of this paper, it like you can project it out into the world. And so, you know, when I do distance work, it's all about receiving the permission from the person, right? They give me the permission to actually go within and do this work for them. And so once that connection is established, you can do a lot of things, but I actually draw the person. I take a picture of the person and I draw them onto the paper, and I give them a full body and everything. And what's really interesting is like, even in the drawing, sometimes you start to know where they're holding stuff, because you're drawing and all of a sudden you're like, why is I drew that person's shoulder and their ear. Well, clearly they must have something that they're holding in their left shoulder, you know? And so you start to intuitively connect to the person. So I draw them out, and then I use a pendulum over the drawing to check their chakra centers based off of where, like what's going on with their chakras, based off of the reading of the pendulum. I've been using a pendulum for a long time. So I know the signs for yes and no, close, open. Like it's like you just have to connect with your pendulum in that way. And so I use it over the picture, and it will pick up immediately on what chakras are opened and closed on the person. And then based off of that, there's a way that I use blue kyanite and clear quartz to actually read what's going on in the chakras. And just literally, I just connect with the crystals, open myself up, and hold it there, and just open myself up to whatever information is coming in from the crystals. And so whatever information, I take some notes, take notes on what chakras are open, what chakras are closed, what information comes through. And then I begin the treatment with the actual stones. And so what I do is that I use my pendulum over the stones. And I know based off of I have a conversation with the person first. So based off of the conversation, I have a general idea on what extraordinary channel wants to be opened. And then once I keep that always in the forefront of my mind. And as I go through the stones with the pendulum, like the pendulum will, tell me absolutely yes for some, absolutely no for others. And some that are like, yeah, I guess I could work. I could, So I go through all the stones with the pendulum, and I pull them out, pull them all out to the side. Like, okay, you guys want to work? You guys want to work? Great. Okay, we have my pile here. And then I go over the stones that want to work again with the pendulum, because sometimes when you pull those stones out from the main group to the side group, there were stones that are really excited about working. But then when they get to the smaller group, they realize, oh no, this isn't my treatment. This is this stone's treatment instead. So then all of a sudden you do a second pass, and then some of the stones that were like vibrating highly first, they're not the second round. So then I pull those back. So it's like really refining the treatment. And basically, the pendulum is what tells me the channel that wants to be open. A lot of the times, there's a lot of misspellings, and it's crazy, like how it comes out of me. And then that's the message for them. And so what I'll do, oh, I forgot to mention, I do these treatments while the person is sleeping. So I start the work on them, say that they go to bed at 10 o'clock at night. I start it at the process at 9 o'clock. So by the time that 10 o'clock hits at night, they are already asleep. And the reason why I do this is because to get the conscious mind out of the way, because our minds are so powerful and they're so busy that it's really important to get the mind completely out of the way as much as possible. So I do the stones work over 8 hours. So I leave the stones on the hologram of them for 8 hours for the night. And then I sit and I do the automatic writing. And then in the morning, I again play sound over them, and I remove the stones and I send them the message that I received from the stones the night before. And then that's considered like one treatment. And then like we also meet afterwards to discuss, because sometimes, it brings up a lot. Like one round of this type of work brings up a ton, and there's questions. And so we always have like a debriefing after a session. We have a talk before and a talk after. And yeah, that's my process that I go through with these treatments. And it's been really powerful.
No, thank you so much for, taking everybody with you. I mean, you've shared a lot of detail, and I'm thankful that you did, because, even again, as a kind of like a scientist, you've broken down the steps. You've spoken of intuition, and you've spoken of how to take the patient's conscious mind out of the way. You've talked about automatic writing and how I think you mentioned that you pointed towards your navel area, I believe.
Yeah, it's like a solar plexus, like kind of like,
Very interesting, because I've heard from somebody in the context of Vedas or Ayurveda, that they had pointed out that a lot of the hidden kind of even past traumas or the resentment or anger, they said, I was told once to massage the navel area with one hand, and then just keep a pen and paper handy, and whatever just comes up in the moment,
great, yeah,
just put it. And it was, I did not do it. I did not do it, but as you mentioned that, it came to me, and I would like to. I do massage my navel, though. Let's just say that I haven't done automatic writing, but every day, I do massage the navel, which was told to me from different perspectives, but that writing was one. So it just flashed in my mind. But yeah, this is really really rich, and well, first of all, it's very creative.